What if the person who helped Meghan Markle rise into elite circles, who literally gave her a seat at the royal table, was also the one to bring it all crashing down? Because that's exactly what seems to be unfolding. And the timing? Devastating. It all started with one image. One blurry, almost grainy photo. At first glance, it looked like nothing. Two people walking out of a building. Just another paparazzi shot in the whirlwind of celebrity gossip. But look closer, and everything starts to unravel. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. That woman, Meghan Markle, the man beside her, Prince Andrew, and the timestamp? Months before Harry and Meghan's relationship went public. So let me ask you this. What if the biggest royal scandal of the decade wasn't Harry leaving the monarchy, but Meghan's relationship with another royal long before he ever proposed? And now, thanks to a man named Markus Anderson, those whispers are no longer whispers. They're headlines. The shocking betrayal. You probably know Markus Anderson as that guy, the one who always seemed to be lurking in the background. Black suit, sharp tie, always within arm's reach of Meghan, especially during her early days in London. But don't let the shadowy presence fool you. Markus isn't just a friend. He's the architect behind Meghan's royal rise. The Soho House strategist. The insider who introduced her to the right people at the right time, often at the right party with just the right lighting. He was the one who got Meghan in front of the gatekeepers. He's the one who, by all accounts, vouched for her, defended her, protected her, until now. Because in a move that has left royal watchers and Hollywood insiders absolutely stunned, Markus Anderson has just leaked a collection of photos that appear to show Meghan and Prince Andrew together, alone, in moments that raise far more questions than answers. But here's the real twist. This wasn't a random act. This wasn't a tabloid grab. This wasn't clout chasing. According to sources close to Anderson, this was revenge. Revenge for being cut off. Revenge for being used. Revenge for watching Meghan trade loyalty for fame, and allegedly leaving a trail of wreckage behind her. And if that sounds like a bold claim, just wait. Because what's about to unfold isn't just a story about one leaked photo. It's about the rot beneath the royal surface. It's about trust, betrayal, and secrets buried in velvet-lined vaults. It's about a best friend turned enemy, a husband left reeling, a monarchy on the brink of another PR disaster. And it's about the real reason Markus waited until now to release the evidence. Why the story matters now. Let's be honest, scandal and the royal family go together like tea and crumpets. There's always something brewing behind palace doors. But this is different. Let's set the scene. Prince Charles, now King Charles, is facing mounting health concerns. Rumors of declining stamina and hush-hush hospital visits are fueling speculation about a potential regency. Prince William is stepping up. His public appearances have increased. His media strategy is tightening. He's clearly preparing for something bigger, something imminent. And Harry? He's flailing. With Spare fading from headlines and Netflix cooling on new Sussex content, Harry's relevance in the royal narrative is slipping. He's fighting to stay in the public eye, but every move seems reactive, desperate. So when this bombshell drops, when Harry's own wife is linked, however vaguely, to his disgraced uncle Prince Andrew, it does more than make waves. It causes a tsunami. Because let's not forget, Andrew isn't just any royal. He's radioactive. The Jeffrey Epstein scandal. The BBC interview disaster. The forced stepping down from royal duties. The stripped military titles. To be even seen with him, especially in private, raises serious questions. So what does it mean when the woman who claimed to be a victim of palace cruelty is suddenly caught in photos with the man the palace tried to erase? And why is her own best friend the one dragging this out into the light? Who gains from the leak? Let's play the age-old game. Cui bono? Who benefits? Not Meghan. Certainly not Harry. Not the royal family, who are scrambling behind the scenes to contain the damage. So that leaves Markus. But why? Was it money? Was it personal? Was it a long-game revenge plot born from resentment, from years of being sidelined while Meghan's star rose? Some believe Markus had a falling out with Meghan months ago, quiet but final. Something about business or betrayal. Others claim it was personal, that he warned her, that he begged her to stop. That when she didn't, he began collecting, watching, archiving, and now he's unleashed the first wave. One photo, one message, one media firestorm. And that's just the beginning. But who is Markus Anderson really? You've heard his name, but how much do you really know? Born in Canada, rose through the ranks at Soho House, the elite members-only club with outposts in London, New York, LA. If you wanted to connect with A-listers without being seen, Soho House was your sanctuary. And Markus was its gatekeeper. He wasn't just managing events. He was curating connections, creating influence pipelines. And Meghan? She was one of his prized protégés. He took her under his wing in Toronto, introduced her to power players, coached her on etiquette and circles and optics. He was reportedly with her in London when she first met Harry. He was photographed at the Invictus Games, sitting right behind her during her royal debut with Harry. He was always there. But over the years, that presence faded. Quietly. No drama. No headlines. Just absence. And now we know why. Because Markus wasn't just watching. He was documenting. The emotional ticking time bomb. Now, let's flip the lens for a moment. Imagine you're Harry. You've given up your titles. You've moved to California. You've sacrificed your family, your legacy, your country for this woman. And then you get a message at 2:47 a.m. An anonymous tip. A link. A photo. You open it. And your stomach drops. The woman you left everything for is arm in arm with the very royal your family excommunicated. And it wasn't recent. It was before you ever said, "I love you." Worse, your best man at your wedding, Markus, was the one who captured it and leaked it. How do you react? Do you scream? Do you call her out? Do you confront her? Or do you spiral inward, like you always have? Because that's what insiders say Harry did. He shut down, canceled his meetings, ghosted his team, went silent. But silence can be deadly, because while he was reeling, Meghan was already planning her counterattack. The war is just beginning. Make no mistake, this is more than a scandal. It's a war. A three-way war between Meghan, Harry, and the very man who made their love story possible. And each one of them is armed with secrets. The first photo was just the warning shot. And according to reports, Markus has more. Photos, voice recordings, calendar logs, party guest lists, even alleged diary entries. So the real question is, how far is Meghan willing to go to protect what's left of her legacy? And what really happened between her and Prince Andrew? Because the palace's silence speaks volumes. And insiders are already hinting that what's coming next could shake the monarchy to its core. But what came next wasn't just a leak. It was a revelation. A betrayal so personal, so calculated, it made even Prince William question whether Harry should have ever married her in the first place. What if the man you trusted the most was the one taking notes the entire time? Not in public, not with a camera, not with gossip, but with something far more dangerous, memory. Markus Anderson was never just a background character in Meghan Markle's story. He was the architect, the handler, the fixer, the connector, the watcher. And when he finally turned on her, he did it not with a bang, but with precision, with timing, with intent. Because Markus wasn't bluffing when he dropped that first photo. He was declaring war. Who is Markus Anderson, really? Let's start with the basics. Because for most of the world, Markus Anderson barely registers. A name here, a blurred face there. Maybe you've seen him tucked behind Meghan in old paparazzi shots. Maybe you caught a quick reference in a Vanity Fair article, calling him the closest thing to a royal whisperer Meghan ever had. But behind the scenes, he was everything. Canadian-born, sharp-dressed, impeccably connected. Markus climbed the social ladder through charm, curation, and control. As a top executive at Soho House, the elite members-only club for creatives, billionaires, and British nobility, he didn't just throw parties. He engineered social strategy. You didn't just walk into Soho House and become someone. Markus made you someone. And Meghan? She was one of his most carefully designed creations. He found her in Toronto, still a working actress, still hustling on the side, still dreaming of something more. And slowly, deliberately, Markus introduced her to a new orbit. Quietly at first, then more boldly. The brunches, the dinners, the elite fundraisers, the fashion circles, and finally, London. Do you really think Meghan just stumbled into Prince Harry's path? Come on, Markus orchestrated it. And he did it masterfully. But that begs the question, why would he destroy what he helped build? The Soho House blueprint. Here's where things get interesting. Because this isn't just about a friend turning on a friend. It's about someone who knew everything. Markus didn't just know Meghan's public persona. He knew the private one. He was there for the nights out, the ones without press. The emotional breakdowns, the career panics, the conversations about men, ambition, power. He knew the names she didn't say publicly, the lovers, the enemies, the silent deals. So imagine his mind, like a vault, every detail locked away, until now. Insiders say Markus kept meticulous records. Not for blackmail, not for profit, but for protection. Because in the circles he ran in, you needed leverage. And Meghan? She gave him plenty. Calendar invites, private emails, confessions over cocktails, photographs taken for fun during parties in villas, on yachts, and in royal-adjacent estates. All innocent, until viewed through the lens of scandal. And that's what made his betrayal so devastating. He wasn't guessing. He wasn't speculating. He was revealing. The day the friendship cracked. What no one talks about is when it changed. Markus and Meghan were inseparable up until late 2021. Always appearing at high-end gatherings, traveling across continents, sipping discreetly at Camelot tables with fashion moguls and tech billionaires. Then, seemingly overnight, radio silence. Markus disappeared from Meghan's life. No social posts. No mentions in interviews. No Christmas greetings. Not even a Soho House drop-in when Meghan and Harry traveled to NYC. What happened? According to one source who worked at Soho House Toronto, there was a falling out. Not loud, but final. Markus felt used. Used. That word keeps popping up. Whispers of Meghan shutting him out after landing Netflix deals. Talks of a disagreement over image rights. A private dinner in LA where Markus allegedly confronted her and left early. But the real turning point? A trip. Quiet. Undocumented. One that allegedly involved Meghan visiting a secluded estate once owned by the Duke of York. And that's where Markus draws the line. Because he reportedly warned her. Told her to keep her distance. Told her that associating with Andrew, even for old times' sake, was suicide. She didn't listen. And according to Markus's own leaked texts, she laughed. He's harmless now, she allegedly wrote. No one will ever know. Oh, but someone did. The secret that broke the bond. Here's a chilling twist. Markus wasn't just hurt. He wasn't just angry. He was watching. Sources close to him claim he started documenting everything after that LA dinner. Every interaction. Every rumor. Every hush conversation. He backed up old photos. Screen-recorded old FaceTime calls. Archived emails. He created a dossier. And buried deep inside it, photos. The first one that leaked showed Meghan and Prince Andrew outside a side entrance of a members-only hotel in Mayfair. The second, never published, but reportedly seen by media execs, shows them sitting closely inside what looks like a private dining room. No other faces visible. Just shadows. Intimacy. Proximity. Are they damning? Depends on who you ask. But they're enough. Enough to make Harry spiral. Enough to make William furious. Enough to make the palace panic. And according to insiders, there's more. So why hasn't it all come out yet? Because Markus is playing chess. One leak, one warning, one shot across the bow. And if Meghan doesn't back down, doesn't apologize, doesn't retreat, he'll drop the rest. He told one source, if she thinks I won't burn the whole thing down. She's forgotten who lit the match in the first place. What Meghan knew and ignored. This isn't a case of blindsiding. Markus didn't sneak attack Meghan. He warned her. Multiple times. He reportedly sent her a final email in March of this year. Calm, short, deliberate. It said only, you're on a dangerous path. I still know where the bodies are buried. Don't make me dig. Her response? Silence. Followed by a new podcast appearance where she talked about toxic friendships and male allies who pretend to support women until they don't. Everyone thought she was talking about the press. But Markus? He took it personally. That was her final mistake. Because Markus doesn't bluff. And when he feels betrayed, he doesn't yell. He acts. The royal family reacts. So what about the firm? You'd think the palace would be thrilled. Anything that takes heat off Charles, Andrew, and the rest. But insiders say the royal family is furious. Because they know the fallout won't stop with Meghan. If this escalates, everything gets dragged out. Prince Andrew's unspoken connections. Old party guests. Deals made under the table. The shadow web of aristocracy and influence. And worst of all, Harry might talk. Because when a man is hurt, cornered, and confused, He gets reckless. And that's what worries the palace most. One wrong move from Harry, and all their secrets could spill. So why now? That's the question everyone's asking. Why would Markus drop this now? Not in 2019. Not during Megxit. Not even during the Oprah interview saga. Why wait until now? Some say it's about timing. That Markus waited until the world was tired of Meghan and ready to believe the worst. Others think it's personal. That this was always his backup plan. That when Meghan made it clear he was no longer part of her inner circle, he activated the scorched earth file. But here's a theory most haven't considered. What if Markus wasn't acting alone? What if someone inside the palace gave him the green light? What if Markus was the messenger, but not the mastermind? Because the leak's timing didn't just hurt Meghan. It helped someone else. And that someone might just be sitting on the throne or waiting in the wings. But what came next wasn't about strategy. It was about survival. Because Markus wasn't done. He had more. And what he leaked next wasn't just a photo. It was a journal entry. And it wasn't his. It was Meghan's. And it changed everything. What if the images everyone is arguing about aren't even the most dangerous ones? Because the truth is, the photos that leaked weren't shocking because of what they clearly showed. They were shocking because of what they suggested. And suggestion, especially in royal scandals, is often deadlier than proof. The first image appeared quietly. No watermark. No headline. Just a low-resolution file shared through a private channel that journalists monitor like hawks. It didn't scream scandal. It whispered it. 2 figures. A side entrance. Late evening. Dim lighting. At first, editors hesitated. Was it really her? Was it really him? Then someone enhanced the image. And suddenly, hesitation turned into panic. The first photo. Timing is everything. Let's break it down. The photo shows a woman who looks unmistakably like Meghan Markle. Same posture, same walk, same silhouette. Exiting a discreet entrance of a private members-only hotel in Mayfair. Beside her is a man several inches taller, shoulders slightly hunched forward, wearing a dark overcoat. His face is partially turned away from the camera. But the hairline, the gait, the stance, it matches Prince Andrew. Not perfectly, not unmistakably, but close enough to raise hell. Now here's where it gets unsettling. The timestamp metadata, assuming it's authentic, places the photo in early 2016. That's before Harry, before the engagement, before the fairy tale. Which raises an uncomfortable question. What exactly was Meghan doing in Andrew's orbit back then? And more importantly, who else knew? The second image, proximity that raises eyebrows. The second image never went fully public. Not yet, but multiple journalists claim they've seen it. And they all describe it the same way. Meghan seated at a small, candlelit table. Prince Andrew across from her. No other faces visible. Their bodies angled inward. Her hand resting near his wrist. Is it romantic? Not overtly. Is it suspicious? Absolutely. Because context matters. That table? According to sources, it matches the interior of a private dining room at a countryside estate connected to Andrew's inner circle. A place that doesn't appear on booking sites. A place you don't just end up at. And here's the contradiction that's driving palace insiders mad. Meghan has always claimed she barely knew Andrew. That their interactions were fleeting, formal, rare. So why is she pictured in what looks like a private, intimate setting? Why wasn't anyone else there? And why did Markus have this photo? How Markus got the images? This is where things get uncomfortable. Because Markus wasn't paparazzi. He wasn't stalking anyone. He didn't hack a phone. These photos were taken from inside the circle. Some were snapped casually, by friends, staff, guests. The kind of photos people take when they feel safe. When they think nothing will ever come of it. Others? Captured by Markus himself. Why? According to sources, Markus had a habit of documenting moments. Not maliciously, strategically. He believed memory fades, but records don't. And in elite circles, documentation is protection. He didn't plan to leak them. At least, not at first. But once the friendship fractured, once he felt erased, once he realized Meghan was rewriting history and cutting him out completely, those images stopped being memories. They became leverage. The Harry factor. When the photos reached him. Now imagine being Harry. It's late. You're exhausted. Your phone buzzes. A message from an unknown contact. No words. Just an attachment. You open it. And suddenly, the world tilts. Sources close to Harry say he stared at the image for nearly 10 minutes. Zoomed in, zoomed out, checked the timestamp, read the file name. Then he closed his phone and didn't speak for hours. Because denial is easy until the details start lining up. The outfit Meghan wore in the photo? She still owns it. The hotel entrance? She once mentioned it casually in a story years ago. The timing? She had always been vague about that period of her life. And suddenly, vagueness looked a lot like omission. So Harry did what he always does when he's overwhelmed. He internalized. He spiraled. And then, he confronted her. The confrontation Meghan didn't expect. According to multiple accounts, Harry approached Meghan calmly. Too calmly. He didn't accuse. He didn't shout. He didn't show her the photo at first. He asked a question instead. Did you ever spend time alone with Andrew before we met? Meghan paused. Not long, but long enough. And that pause? It did more damage than any photo ever could. She didn't deny it outright. She didn't confirm it either. She deflected. She said it was complicated. She said it was out of context. She said Marcus was manipulating things. And that's when Harry showed her the image. Her reaction? Sources describe it as controlled. Too controlled. No shock. No confusion. Just calculation. She reportedly said 4 words that night that still haunt Harry. You don't understand everything. What does that even mean? What wasn't he understanding? The public reaction, why people believe it. Here's the uncomfortable truth. If this were anyone else, the story might have fizzled. Blurry photos. No smoking gun. No explicit evidence. But Meghan's history complicates everything. Her critics point to inconsistencies. Her defenders point to media bias. And the photos landed in a cultural moment where people are already divided, where trust is low and narratives shift fast. Social media exploded. Some called it a smear campaign. Others said it confirmed long-held suspicions. Hashtags trended. Commentators dissected body language. Former palace staff anonymously chimed in. And the loudest question kept resurfacing. Why would Marcus risk everything if it wasn't true? Because this wasn't just gossip. This was a man detonating his own career. What the palace knows and won't say. Behind palace walls, the response was swift and cold. Lawyers were called. PR teams drafted statements and shredded them. Security protocols tightened around Andrew. But publicly, silence. And silence from the palace is never accidental. It means they're weighing outcomes. Because denying the photos outright could backfire if more evidence emerges. But acknowledging them? That opens a door they've been desperately trying to keep shut, especially where Andrew is concerned. Because Andrew doesn't need another scandal. And neither does the monarchy. The question no one can answer. Here's the part that makes this story truly dangerous. Not whether the photos are real. Not whether Meghan and Andrew had an affair. But this. What else did Marcus capture? If these images exist, what about video, audio, messages? What about the diary Marcus allegedly referenced? What about the calendar entries that match those dates? And why has Marcus stayed quiet since the first leak? According to sources close to him, this is deliberate. He's letting the story breathe, letting doubt fester, letting Meghan respond, and potentially contradict herself. Because every word she says now becomes part of the record. And every contradiction, fuel, the calm before the next drop. As of now, Marcus hasn't released anything new. But insiders claim he's preparing a second wave. Not photos. Something far worse. Something that doesn't rely on interpretation or body language. Something written. Something personal. Something Meghan never expected to see daylight. And according to one journalist who claims to have been offered a preview, it explains everything. The Andrew connection. The secrecy. The timing. And why Marcus finally snapped. So the question isn't whether this story will continue. It's how much damage will be done before it's over. Because once the next piece drops, there's no going back. And when it does, it won't just shake Harry. It will force him to choose sides. Between the woman he married and the truth he can no longer ignore. But what came next didn't involve photos at all. It involved words. Texts sent in the dead of night. Messages that revealed Harry's state of mind and exposed just how deep this betrayal cut. And once those messages surfaced, the story took a darker turn no one was prepared for. What happens when the fairy tale cracks, and the prince finally says what he really thinks? Not to the press, not in an interview, not even on camera, but in the dark silence of a Malibu mansion, long after the world has gone to sleep, through texts. Raw, unfiltered, unraveled. This wasn't Spare. This wasn't a Netflix script. This was Harry, broken, betrayed, and blindsided, sending messages to the very people he thought had abandoned him, because now he was the one bleeding. And some of those messages? They leaked. The night everything spilled over. It began hours after the photos were confirmed real. The image of Meghan exiting that hotel with Prince Andrew had been dissected, filtered, and time-stamped. The second image, more intimate, more damning, had only been described damn, but it was enough. Insiders say Harry didn't sleep that night. He walked, paced, stared at the photo over and over again, as if willing it to vanish. But every time he zoomed in, every time he stared at the curve of her face, the closeness, the timestamp, he spiraled. At 2:46 a.m., he broke. He reached for his phone and started texting. Not Meghan, not his therapist, not his team. He texted the people he had cut off. First message, Princess Eugenie. It makes sense, doesn't it? Eugenie was the one royal who always stood by Harry. She even visited him in California. She and Jack were godparents to Archie, or at least they used to be. And crucially, Eugenie had always been suspicious of Meghan. So when Harry sent her a text, it wasn't rage. It was desperation. You knew, didn't you? Tell me you didn't know about Andrew and her. No response. Not for 20 minutes. Then, allegedly, a reply came. It wasn't what you think, Harry. But yes, I saw something. Years ago. That cracked him. Because if Eugenie knew, who else knew? How long had he been the fool? Insiders say Harry dropped the phone on the floor after reading it. Sat down on the couch. Buried his head in his hands. And then he did something no one expected. Second message, Prince William. Yes, him. The brother he hadn't spoken to in months. The brother he accused of screaming at him during Megxit. The brother whose staff he once blamed for leaking stories to the press. But at 3:17 a.m., Harry cracked open that contact thread and sent a message. 3 words. You were right. That's it. No apology. No explanation. No demand. Just an admission. It was the first message William had received from his brother in over 7 months. And according to sources in the palace, it hit him like a thunderclap. William didn't reply immediately, but when he did, it was just as short. It's not too late. Cryptic? Yes. Forgiving? Maybe. Loaded? Absolutely. Because beneath those 4 words lived a deeper truth. William always believed Meghan was manipulating Harry. And now, finally, Harry might believe it too. But what happened next was darker. Much darker. Third message, Markus Anderson. Yes, even after the leak, even after the photos, Harry reached out to Markus. Why? No one's sure. Maybe he needed closure. Maybe he needed to lash out. Maybe, deep down, he wanted to understand why his wife's closest friend would destroy everything. The message Harry allegedly sent? You think you're a hero now? You ruined 3 lives. Hers, mine, Archie's, and Markus, ever cool, ever calm, allegedly replied. No. I exposed the lie before it destroyed you completely. That single text hit Harry harder than any headline. Because it wasn't just about the affair. It was about all of it. The palace, the book, the move to California, the severed family ties, the lost titles, the public ridicule, the loneliness. Was it all built on a lie? The collapse behind closed doors. The next morning, staff at the Montecito estate found Harry in the garden, barefoot, shirtless, sitting on a bench, staring into space. He hadn't slept. He hadn't eaten. And when asked if he was okay, he reportedly said, I don't know who she is anymore. Let that sink in. Because this isn't just about infidelity. This isn't about a photo. This is about identity. Harry left everything, his title, his family, his homeland, for a woman he believed got him, protected him, loved him for who he really was. And now she was a stranger. And worse, a stranger who might have lied to his face for years. Sources close to Harry say he spiraled for days, refused to speak during Netflix calls, skipped therapy, canceled a planned meeting with a documentary crew. Even Tyler Perry, his longtime ally, couldn't reach him. And Meghan? She was gone. Where was Meghan? Here's the part that made things even murkier. While Harry was unraveling, Meghan was nowhere to be found. She wasn't in Montecito. She wasn't in LA. She wasn't even in California. Flight trackers picked up a private jet that allegedly took off from Van Nuys Airport the day after the leak. Its destination? Toronto. And guess who else was in Toronto that week? Markus Anderson. Coincidence? Maybe. But if it's not, what does that mean? That Meghan went to confront him? To negotiate? Or worse, to manage a cleanup? Because nothing about that trip was casual. No photos. No social posts. No paparazzi. Just total silence. And when she returned 3 days later, she still didn't go straight to Harry. Instead, she checked into a luxury wellness resort for recovery. Recovery from what? That's the million-dollar question. The diary page that shattered illusions. Here's where everything took a darker, more personal turn. Because Harry wasn't the only one receiving messages. An anonymous source sent a scanned image to multiple media outlets, an excerpt from what they claimed was Meghan's personal journal. No one knows how they got it, but the handwriting, the phrasing, it matched her known style. And the words? Chilling. I was never supposed to fall for Harry. He was the escape hatch, the golden ticket. But then he started believing in it too much. Believing me. That line, believing me, set the internet on fire. What did it mean? That she had been performing? That her love was a strategy? That Spare wasn't the only thing ghostwritten. When Harry allegedly saw that leaked page, he shut down completely. No more texts. No more calls. No more interviews. He went dark. Even his team didn't know how to reach him. Because that one page confirmed the thing he feared most. That the love he sacrificed everything for might have been built on a script. And worse, he wasn't even the author. The text that made Tyler Perry cry. In the middle of all this, one final text was sent. To Tyler Perry. It read, "If I disappear, don't let Archie forget me." Let that sink in. That's not anger. That's not blame. That's grief. It was the text of a man who felt erased from his own life. Insiders say Perry flew to California within 24 hours of receiving it. When he arrived, Harry barely spoke. Just sat, listened, and wept. Because when everything else collapses, when friends betray, brothers gloat, and partners vanish, the one thing left is your child. And Harry, in that moment, feared losing Archie more than anything. Because if Meghan really had been lying, what else had she taken? But then came the call that no one expected. 3 days later, Harry's phone rang. It was Prince William. Not through aides. Not through an encrypted channel. Just a call. And what William said on that call changed everything. But what came next wouldn't be a reunion or a reconciliation. It would be a warning that Harry couldn't ignore. A warning that there was another piece of evidence about to be released. And this time, it would drag the entire royal family back into the fire. What happens when the brother you abandoned becomes the only one still willing to protect you? The call came out of nowhere. Not through palace channels. Not brokered by aides. Not arranged through PR handlers. Just a direct number. A familiar one. Harry didn't even recognize it at first. His phone had been silent for days. He'd turned off most alerts. He was barely eating. Still reeling from the photo leak, the journal excerpt, and the sense that his life, his marriage, was built on smoke. But when the screen lit up and the name William flashed across it, everything in Harry's body froze. For a moment, he thought about ignoring it. After all, wasn't this the man who accused Meghan of manipulation years ago? Who refused to stand by him during Megxit? Who said, on more than one occasion, that Harry was digging his own grave? But instinct won out. Harry answered, and what he heard would flip the entire narrative on its head. You were right, but you were cruel. The conversation began, as most sibling reconciliations do, with awkward silence. Neither of them knew what to say. Not at first, until William broke the ice. I saw the photos. Short, measured, controlled. Harry's response. A deep sigh. No denial. No questions. No excuses. Just resignation. Then William added something unexpected. This isn't about the pictures. It's about what's coming next. And you need to listen, because I'm not sure you're safe anymore. Safe? From what? From whom? That's when William dropped the bombshell. The second leak, and why it terrified William. While the world was still dissecting the first photo leak from Markus, the royal family's security teams had intercepted a message circulating on encrypted journalist forums. Someone was preparing to release a third image. And this time, it wasn't just Meghan and Andrew. This time, Harry was in it too. A photo allegedly taken in 2016, before the engagement. At a private estate where Andrew, Meghan, and Harry all happened to be present. The image reportedly shows Meghan and Andrew in conversation, while Harry is in the background, unaware, laughing with staff. Why does this matter? Because it suggests proximity, connection, a shared social circle before the love story began. And if true, it means Harry didn't just fall into Meghan's life accidentally. He was introduced, possibly targeted, and William had a theory. You were curated, he told Harry. They got to you through her, or to her through you. What did that mean? Was Meghan placed in Harry's path by someone else? Marcus? Andrew? Even more terrifying, someone in the firm? William wouldn't say more. Not over the phone. But he did say this. There are things I didn't tell you before, because I wanted to protect you. Now I think hiding it has only hurt you more. Harry was silent. Then he said the one thing William had waited years to hear. I believe you now. But what William said next chilled him to the bone. You should have listened sooner. Because the next piece to drop, it's not just about you. The email that changed the game. William revealed that a journalist, one who had close ties to palace insiders, had received an anonymous email. The email contained a high-resolution photo, a document titled December Log, and a single line of text. You protected the wrong prince. Let that sink in. You protected the wrong prince. Was it a threat? Was it about Harry? Or was it about Andrew? Because the document, still unreleased publicly, was said to be a calendar entry, one that placed Meghan, Andrew, and a third unidentified individual at the same location in December 2015. That date matters. Because if Meghan was involved with Andrew, even casually, that far back, it would invalidate everything. The timeline, the romance, the origin story, and worse, it would open the door to new questions. Did Harry know and lie? Was Meghan using Andrew to get closer to the crown? And where does Marcus fit into all this? Because according to palace insiders, the metadata on that email traced back to a server in Toronto. And guess who lived in Toronto? Guess who had access to Meghan's old laptop? Old friends. Old files. Marcus. This wasn't just revenge. It was surgical exposure. And it was happening fast. The real reason William reached out. Now, here's where things get complicated. William didn't call just to warn Harry. He called to make a deal. According to sources close to the palace, William offered Harry something unheard of. A path back. Not to royal duties. Not to Frogmore. Not to the balcony at Trooping the Color. But back into protection. Security. Legal shielding. Behind-the-scenes management of fallout. But there was a condition. You need to separate yourself from her. Publicly. Legally. Financially. If you do that, I can contain the rest. Harry's response. Shock. Anger. But also something else. Relief. Because part of him had been waiting for this. Waiting for someone to take the decision out of his hands. Because despite the pain, despite the humiliation, despite the rage, he still loved Meghan. And that's what made this next choice impossible. I don't know who I am without her. That's what Harry reportedly told William. A whisper. Barely audible. A confession more than a reply. William didn't respond right away. Because what do you say to a man who's just realized he's been living in someone else's version of love? Eventually, William said this. Then figure it out. Before someone else defines it for you. A warning. A plea. And maybe a challenge. Because the next leak was imminent. And it had nothing to do with photos. It had to do with money. The secret bank account. Later that day, a journalist leaked part of a financial statement connected to a shell company registered in Delaware. The company? Linked to a trust that had been quietly receiving payments from an entity connected to Prince Andrew's former staff. And the name on one of the account's authorized users? Meghan Markle. This wasn't tabloid fodder. This was forensic financial journalism. The kind that leads to court. To subpoenas. To investigations. To front-page scandal. Why did Meghan's name appear there? What was the money for? Was it a loan? A gift? A payout? The palace refused to comment. Meghan's team called it fabricated nonsense. But the paper trail didn't lie. And once again, guess who was listed as the introducing agent for the trust? Markus Anderson. His name, in black and white, on a document filed in 2017. Suddenly, this wasn't just about leaked photos or broken trust. This was about collusion, conspiracy, and possibly a cover-up. And that's when the palace really panicked. Because the final leak, still pending, was said to contain audio. Not of Meghan, not of Andrew, but of Harry. A conversation he didn't know was recorded. A conversation that, if released, could prove whether he was a pawn or a partner. And what came next wasn't just devastating. It was damning, because it forced Harry to make a decision no prince had ever made before. To expose the truth, or to protect the lie. What happens when the one man who could clarify everything refuses to say a single word? Prince Andrew, Duke of York, once beloved, then disgraced, now exposed again. But this time, not for his association with Epstein, not for his infamous "I don't sweat" interview, not for the palace doors he quietly exited after being stripped of royal duties. No, this time, Andrew is at the center of a brand new scandal, and the stakes are higher than ever. Because this time, it's not just about his past. It's about Meghan Markle. It's about a leak that won't stop bleeding. It's about Harry, who's unraveling. And most terrifying of all, it's about what Andrew knows. And what he's refusing to admit. The palace meeting no one was supposed to see. 2 days after the journal page leaked, the one where Meghan allegedly wrote she never meant to fall for Harry, something happened in the halls of Buckingham Palace that hadn't happened since Andrew's fall from grace. He was summoned, not formally, not through a red-sealed letter or a full family briefing, but summoned nonetheless. A private car, no fanfare, no press. Just a side entrance, a quiet corridor, and a gathering of men in suits behind closed oak-paneled doors. According to an insider, the meeting included Andrew, a senior private secretary, a royal legal advisor, a palace crisis communications officer, and shockingly, Camilla, not Charles, not William, not even Anne, Camilla. Why? Because she's the one who knows how to survive. She's lived through scandal, and she understands something the rest often forget. Control the story, or the story controls you. And right now, they were losing control fast. Andrew's reaction to the leaks. So how did Andrew respond to being confronted? With exactly the attitude you'd expect. Denial. But not outrage. Not panic. Not even guilt. Just cold, mechanical denial. According to sources familiar with the meeting, Andrew kept his responses limited, legal, and vague. I don't recall the exact meeting in question. Any interaction I had with Meghan Markle was purely social, in public settings. I am not aware of the origin of any photographs. Any financial connection would have been entirely administrative. Every answer was rehearsed, choreographed, safe. And that's what worried the palace most. Because they weren't looking for denials. They were looking for cooperation. Instead, they got silence. But not the kind that protects. The kind that hides. And in that silence, suspicion bloomed. The diary of a former staffer. Just as the palace was trying to calm the waves, a former footman came forward. Discreetly, anonymously, but convincingly. He offered a copy of a private diary he kept during his time at one of Andrew's lesser-known countryside residences, Royal Lodge, near Windsor. And in one particular entry dated January 2016, he wrote, "Another late-night guest. Young, American, striking. Didn't catch her name at first, but overheard staff saying something about suits. She and HRH had dinner alone. No other guests. Suits. As in the TV show. As in, Meghan Markle. Was it concrete proof? No. But in the world of public perception, narrative is everything. And suddenly, the timeline wasn't a theory anymore. It was a pattern. And Andrew's refusal to explain it only deepened the palace's internal crisis. A call to the Queen's private secretary. Here's where things get even more intense. A leaked memo, verified by multiple journalists, revealed that the Queen's former private secretary, who had retired shortly before her passing, received an urgent call from a current staffer. The question? Did you ever authorize or witness any meetings between Meghan Markle and Prince Andrew prior to her engagement? The answer? A pause, then a reply. No meetings were authorized, but I wouldn't be surprised if they occurred. That chilling phrase, "I wouldn't be surprised," spread through the palace like fire through dry hay. Because it implied something even darker. Not just that the meetings happened, but that they happened under the radar. Without approval, without security logs, without oversight. And that meant only one thing. Someone was protecting those meetings. But who? And why? And could it have been Marcus? Or someone else? Someone even higher up? The palace didn't want to know. Because the more they pulled at the thread, the more it looked like the entire sweater was about to unravel. The second internal memo. This must not reach William. A second memo leaked just hours later. This one written by a senior communications staffer, now suspended. Its contents? A single chilling instruction. This must not reach William. We cannot risk his reaction. The this in question? A package, delivered anonymously, addressed to the Crown Estate, containing a flash drive. On that drive, a 15-second audio recording. 2 voices. One female, one male. Both unmistakably familiar. She says, "I didn't mean to go that far. I thought it would just be dinners." He replies, "Dinners are fine, as long as no one talks." The accents? British, upper class, controlled, but filtered through forensic audio software. They closely match the voice prints of Meghan Markle and Prince Andrew. No confirmation, no official release, but insiders say the palace had it analyzed within hours. And the result? An 89% match. Enough to panic. Not enough to prosecute, but damaging enough to bury. Hence the memo. Because if William saw this, if Kate saw it, the dam would break, and the Crown couldn't afford another rupture. Not now. Not with Charles's health in question. Not with the Commonwealth wobbling. Not with American public opinion crashing after Spare. So the order was clear. Silence Andrew, distract Harry, and cut off Meghan before she brings down the rest. The real reason Andrew won't talk. Let's ask the obvious. Why won't Andrew just deny everything? Why not come out swinging like he did after the Epstein fallout? Because this time, the stakes are personal. Not legal, not financial, but familial. If Andrew confirms anything at all, he risks not only implicating himself, but others. People with titles, people with power, people with a vested interest in keeping the illusion intact. And sources say Andrew has been quietly paid off to stay quiet. How? Through real estate deals. Through advisory appointments. Through investments channeled through blind trusts. The palace knows it. The insiders know it. And most of all, William knows it. But Harry? He's only just realizing how deep this goes. And as the silence from Andrew grows louder, Harry's options grow fewer. Because every question he asks now only leads to more shadows. And Meghan? She still hasn't answered the one question that could make it all go away. Did you ever lie about how you met me? She won't answer. She can't answer. Because that answer might destroy the only thing Harry still believes in. That their love was real. But what came next wasn't about Andrew. It was about a private journal. A Soho House diary, kept by Markus himself, filled with names, dates, and cryptic entries. And one of those entries mentioned something that had never appeared in any official timeline. A villa, a trip, and a secret meeting with Meghan and a Hollywood A-lister. What if the real truth wasn't hidden in texts, photos, or emails, but in an old-fashioned journal, handwritten, bound in leather, stored in a Soho House safe? Because before Markus Anderson leaked the infamous photos, before he quietly disappeared from Meghan's inner circle, before the world knew he was collecting receipts on his once best friend, he was writing everything down. Why? Because Markus didn't trust memory, and he didn't trust people. So he documented, not just dates and times, but feelings, subtext, warnings. And now that journal, once private, is the hottest document in London, LA, and Toronto. What's inside it? A map, a confession, a bomb, the discovery of the diaries. It happened in a way that almost felt like poetic justice. When Markus vacated his Toronto apartment months after the fallout with Meghan, he left behind a storage unit filled with miscellaneous Soho House memorabilia, event folders, NDA copies, old badges, designer swag. Among them, a black Moleskine-style journal with one word scrawled on the front in silver marker. Watch. Not remember. Not revenge. Just watch. That diary ended up in the hands of a former assistant, someone who'd been with Markus through it all. She didn't leak it right away. She read it, cover to cover, twice. And then, knowing what was at stake, she made a digital copy and sent it to 3 people. A royal biographer, a Netflix producer, and a journalist from the Times who had once tried and failed to expose Meghan's pre-Harry connections. That's when the story detonated. Because inside those pages weren't just private thoughts. They were receipts. What the entries reveal. The entries spanned nearly 4 years, from 2014 to late 2017. Some are mundane. Notes about Soho House dinner menus, playlist curation, elite guest list politics. But others? Explosive. There's an entry dated March 12, 2015. M is worried. Says the prince is getting too clingy. Not her prince. The older one. The weird one. I told her to pull back. She said, not until I get the yacht invite. I laughed. She didn't. Hold on. The older one. Who else could that be but Prince Andrew? And what's this about a yacht invite? There had long been rumors that Andrew hosted lavish parties aboard a private yacht docked in the Mediterranean. Quiet, luxurious, unphotographed. Did Meghan go? Did Marcus go? The diary doesn't confirm. But a later entry in May 2015 reads, Post-yacht glow. M says she's tired of playing nice. Said, it's all a rehearsal anyway. I've got my eye on the younger one now. I asked if she meant William. She rolled her eyes. Please. The redhead. The redhead. Prince Harry. This entry alone rewrites everything we thought we knew. Because it implies Meghan targeted Harry. Not stumbled into his life. Not fate. Not fairy tale. Strategy. And Marcus was there for it all. The name that shocks everyone. But perhaps the most shocking diary entry is one dated August 22, 2016. That was just weeks before Meghan and Harry went public with their romance. The entry reads, Private Villa Weekend. M, me and LD. The energy was chaotic. M kept asking how much LD could be leveraged. She said something about flipping a narrative. Said she needed a co-star who wasn't afraid of royalty. LD just drank wine and laughed. I think he thought she was joking. LD? Who is LD? Internet detectives sprang into action. Initials were cross-referenced. Guests lists surfaced. Old Soho House seating plans leaked. And the consensus? Leonardo DiCaprio. Is it confirmed? Not officially. But the villa in question was in Ibiza. And Leo was in Ibiza that weekend. Photographed leaving at dinner hours from the villa Marcus referenced. Even if it wasn't romantic, what was the point? Was Meghan trying to use him? To gain access? Clout. Headlines. The diary never says outright. But it's clear that Marcus saw it for what it was. She's not acting anymore. She's producing. The entry that breaks Harry's heart. But the most painful page of all. One dated November 1st, 2016. The ink is darker. The handwriting shakier. As if Marcus wrote it quickly, in anger. H told her he loved her. She told me she felt nothing. Said, he's sweet, but broken. Easy to shape. I told her to be careful. She said, don't be so dramatic. This ends in a castle or a book deal. Maybe both. Let that sink in. This ends in a castle or a book deal. That's not romance. That's cold. Calculated. And it may explain why Marcus ultimately turned. Because it wasn't just betrayal. It was dehumanization. Harry wasn't a man to Meghan. He was a tool. A means to an end. And Marcus, once the enabler, finally had enough. Meghan's response, a PR panic. When word of the diaries leaked, Meghan's team went into full shutdown mode. No statements. No interviews. No denials. But behind the scenes? Panic. Threatening letters were sent to journalists. Netflix staff were ordered not to comment. Even Oprah was allegedly contacted to advise on damage control. But nothing worked. Because the diary entries were too raw, too personal, too real. And when excerpts were read aloud on a live podcast hosted by a former royal correspondent, listeners wept. This wasn't gossip. It was heartbreak. A love story rewritten in ink and wine-stained paper. And Meghan couldn't scrub it. Because if she denied it too hard, Marcus might release the originals. And that would end everything. The final entry, and the cliffhanger it left. The last entry in the diary is dated January 8, 2017, just before Harry and Meghan's first joint public appearance. She looked in the mirror and said, I'm ready now. I asked for what? She said, to become someone they can't ignore. I don't know if she meant the press, the firm, or him. Maybe all three. It ends with one chilling line, scribbled in the corner. God help him if she ever gets bored. No signature. No follow-up. Just that. God help Harry. Because Marcus saw it all. He watched the transformation, the manipulation, the slow erasure of truth. And he documented it. Not because he hated Meghan, but because, somewhere deep down, he knew. One day, someone would need to know the truth. And that day is now. But what came next wasn't written in a journal. It was shouted through a courtroom hallway. Because as the diary circulated, a new witness came forward. A woman who claimed she worked at the villa mentioned in the entry. And she says she saw everything. including who picked Meghan up the next morning. And no one could believe it, because it wasn't Marcus. It wasn't Andrew. It wasn't Harry. It was a man with a crown logo on his car, and an envelope bearing King Charles's seal. What if Meghan Markle's secret wasn't just hidden behind palace gates, but buried in the very heart of Hollywood? Because the further this story spirals, the clearer one thing becomes. This was never just a royal scandal. It was a production, complete with handlers, scripts, locations, rewrites, and an audience. And now, just as the world was reeling from the leaked Soho House diaries, another figure enters the spotlight. Not a prince, not a palace staffer, not even Marcus, but a driver. An ordinary man, until he revealed an extraordinary detail. He said he worked at the Ibiza villa. He said Meghan left early. She wasn't flustered. She wasn't rushed. She was deliberate. And the man who came to pick her up was driven by a chauffeur from an executive car service, reserved for only the most elite British clients. The symbol etched on the envelope handed to her? A crown, but not a Windsor crest. It was a film production seal, used by British producers when securing A-list talent for confidential projects. In other words, this wasn't just a trip. It was a casting call. They scripted theory. As outlandish as it sounds, new evidence has emerged suggesting that Meghan's rise into royal fame was, at least partially, orchestrated from within elite Hollywood and British media circles. Not just PR. Production. Sources claim that even before Meghan met Harry, she had handlers positioning her as the ideal modern royal spouse. Biracial, American, charismatic, already media-trained, and most importantly, hungry. Multiple documents, some leaked, others revealed via whistleblowers, point to a three-phase plan allegedly created by a boutique PR and production agency. Their name? Red Line Strategies. Their goal? To create a transcultural public figure capable of transcending the British monarchy while attached to it. Let that sink in. Attached to it, not part of it. So who was behind Red Line Strategies? This is where the Hollywood web gets tangled. Because according to an anonymous former staffer, Red Lion had secret backing from two major players. A British media baron who owned stakes in multiple tabloids and magazines. A U.S. entertainment mogul with ties to Oprah Winfrey, Netflix, and Apple TV+. We're not naming names yet. But here's the question. If Meghan was part of a larger media strategy, who else knew? And more importantly, who else played a part? The agents, the handlers, the fixers. The Soho House diaries hinted at it. Now the evidence is piling up. Meghan wasn't just networking. She was being guided. A former agent at CAA came forward anonymously and claimed Meghan's move from supporting actress to international humanitarian and activist wasn't organic. It was engineered. Here's what she said. She was identified as marketable, not for a role, for a persona. Her Instagram was rebranded. Her speaking points were refined. She was told to pivot toward advocacy. You'll be more Diana than Angelina, one exec told her. Sound familiar? Suddenly, Meghan's shift from actress to global icon doesn't feel so accidental. The Rwanda trips, the carefully curated Vogue cover, the UN speech, the charity photo ops with just the right lighting. It was the launch, not of a star, but of a brand. And the crown? That was the ultimate partnership. Oprah's silence, strategic or suspicious. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Oprah. She was the first to give Meghan a global platform post-Megxit. She sat across from Harry and Meghan in that rose garden. She gave them space to cry, to accuse, to own the narrative. But ever since this scandal erupted, not a word, no statements, no follow-ups, no clarifying interviews. Why? Insiders say Oprah has gone radio silent for a reason. Because she knew, at least some of it. According to a former Harpo employee, Oprah was made aware of Meghan's past connections to Andrew before the interview aired. The source claims she was shown a dossier compiled by a legal risk advisor warning her that questions about royal timing, former relationships, and secret meetings might open legal liability. And Oprah's decision? Cut those questions. The result? An interview that looked groundbreaking, but avoided everything truly dangerous. And now? That same source claims Oprah is furious, not because Meghan lied, but because she feels used. And she's allegedly keeping her distance until she can get ahead of it. Which brings us to the next player in this royal Hollywood chessboard. Tyler Perry, the last ally? Let's rewind. When Harry and Meghan fled the UK, they stayed in a home loaned to them by Tyler Perry. He gave them security, privacy, protection. But recently, Harry has been quiet. Too quiet. Insiders claim Perry was blindsided by the photos, the diary, the alleged financial link to Andrew. Worse, sources close to him suggest he feels betrayed. One friend reportedly said, "He gave them sanctuary. Now he feels like he was pulled into a reality show he didn't sign up for." That's why, according to multiple Hollywood insiders, Perry canceled a planned production deal with Archwell Productions. And Meghan? She's reportedly trying to rebuild that bridge. But it may be too late. Because Tyler, unlike Oprah, doesn't play games. He's loyal, but when that loyalty is abused, he walks. Just ask the dozens of stars who crossed him and never got a second chance. Who was watching from the shadows? All of this points to a chilling reality. Someone was watching Meghan's rise, studying her, guiding her, investing in her. But who? There's one theory that keeps gaining traction, the firm itself. That parts of the British monarchy allowed Meghan in, not as a risk, but as a test. To see if modernizing the monarchy meant absorbing someone completely foreign to it. To see if the institution could survive marrying into Hollywood. And when it all started going sideways, they let it burn.